What's up, everybody, and thank you for joining me here on another episode of Wine Tasting 101. It's Tuesday, so you know that means it's time to dive in and learn a little bit about how to taste wine. Today's bottle we have is all in an effort to debunk the myth that Riesling has to be a sweet wine. It is the last white wine in my series. Everything from here on out is going to be red, so I wanted to end with a bang. Riesling is a grape that is very near and dear to my heart from a wine tasting experience that I had in my kind of journey to increase my knowledge of wine, and I think that it's a shame that folks out there avoid Riesling because they assume that it is sweet. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not always sweet, and it is absolutely a wine that you should be seeking out.
The liquid culture.
So the bottle I have here today, guys, it's a really nice bottle. Domaine Weinbach 2017 Riesling from the Grand Cru site of Schlossberg in Alsace, France. So before I get into Alsace, France, I wanted to give you a little anecdote. When I was first starting my journey on educating my palate, I went through an exercise that was suggested to me from a fellow wine nerd and wine clerk at Pogo Wine and Spirits in Dallas. And that's my boy Lance. He told me, you really need to go through and do a side-by-side tasting of a German, an Alsatian, and an Austrian Riesling so that you can see the differences, because they can certainly be vast. And what I found in that exercise really surprised me in that while the German Riesling was still kind of off-dry, slightly sweet, both the Austrian and Alsatian versions were bone dry. And I think that a lot of people discount Riesling because they assume that it is going to be a sweeter wine. Maybe because of that, maybe they assume a lower quality wine, and that just simply is not the case. Riesling is one of the noblest of white grape varietals. It is planted in some of the greatest terroir in the world and is considered by the wine community to be one of the greatest white wines of the world because of its aromatics, because of its ability to showcase terroir, and because of its racy acidity, very sharp, searing acidity a lot of times, which is why so many times it's made in an off-dry or sweet style to kind of counteract some of that acidity. So the bottle that we are drinking today comes from Alsace, France. Alsace is a tiny wine-growing region in the northwest part of France, lies right on that France and Germany border, and in fact is an area that has switched hands between German and French ownership over the years. This bottle we're drinking, again, to debunk that myth that Riesling might be only sweet and only low quality. This is a $60 bottle, guys, from the very first Grand Cru site in Alsace. There are 51 there. This is from the hill of Schlossberg, which is a granite soil, kind of very steep, terraced hillside vineyard there in Alsace. So one of the ways, guys, to really determine, I want to talk to you about how to taste this wine, but really right off the bat, when you're going out and searching for Riesling at the store, one thing, I know that it's very difficult because so much Riesling comes from the old world, and oftentimes in the old world, they don't have Riesling written on the label. This one happens to have it written on the label, but it might not be so easy sometimes. So when you're seeking out Riesling, and when just a little tidbit, we won't dive too deep into labels and such, but one thing to look out for if you're wanting a dry Riesling, you need to look to the alcohol content. So a lot of times the sugar in Riesling comes from a wine that wasn't fully fermented. They stopped fermentation early so that some of those sugars that were still unfermented were left to give a sweet kind of mouthfeel, bigger body, and counteract that acidity a little bit. So this is a 13.5% bottle of Riesling right here. So I know right off the bat this is going to be a bone dry Riesling. Those Rieslings that you look for on the shelf that might have like 8, 9 percent ABV, you know, because that's not a fuller alcohol content, that there's going to be some residual sugar left. I've actually got a bottle from Germany here as well. This is a Trocken Riesling from Germany. Trocken is that word that you want to look for on your German Rieslings if you're going the dry route. So many German Rieslings are sweet, but they do make Trocken Riesling in Germany that is bone dry. So the alcohol content on this bottle, 12.5%. So slightly less than the Alsatian version here, but still you can tell because it's at 12.5% that you're going to have a dry Riesling. So some other places, so again, mentioned Germany is a place where you can find Riesling. Alsace, of course. Austria, I mentioned, and New Zealand makes or I'm sorry, not New Zealand. Australia is a player in the Riesling game, as well as New York State, upstate New York. Lots of good, interesting Rieslings coming out of New York State. So let's go through the steps here, guys. So assessing color. So the first two wines we did in this series, both white wines, both had very similar color, that kind of pale straw. This one has that same kind of color hue as well, but with a little hint of green around the edge. So a little green characteristic, certainly cool climate kind of characteristic that you're seeing there. A little bit of that green hue, lighter color definitely gives me an indication that this is probably a cool climate grape here, or a cool climate grape and region. So that's color, no sediment, looking very nice and clear here. On the nose, again, very, very aromatic. So lots of stuff jumping out at me here. Quite complex on the nose. I would say that with Riesling, something that you look for on the, we go through white wines, we talk a lot about citrus. For Riesling, that is usually going to come in the form of a lime. Not necessarily lemon, like with the Chardonnay last week, but lime is something that's very characteristic, and that is coming through here. Something else that you look for with Riesling is apricot. Is there apricot or peachy, fleshy, kind of stone fruity things? Dried apricots on this one for me. Dried apricots, a little bit of that kind of... so with me, for dried apricots, it's more so that dry, that almost like taking it beyond a concentrated thing. I'm thinking about some of those kind of like chemically, not chemical in a bad way, but some of that kind of smell. When you open up a bag of dried fruit, pretty much every bag of dried fruit has this kind of almost chemically, I don't know if it's like sulfite kind of smell. There's something going on in the bag of dried fruit that is present with pretty much all of them, and that's something that I get in this wine. The kind of the telltale sign, if you are doing a blind tasting and you stick your nose into a glass of white wine and you smell petrol, chemical, rubber characteristics, that is going to tip you off immediately that that is a Riesling. There's really no other grape varietal in the world that gives you that aromatic other than Riesling. And some of you watching might be saying to yourself, that doesn't sound very good. It really is. Once you know that it's something that is supposed to be there, it really kind of tips you off. And the more you drink Riesling, the more you get excited when you smell it, because that's kind of like these, people who love their Rieslings and they like love to catalog Riesling, their Riesling experiences in their head. They're really looking after that kind of diesel, petrol, rubbery kind of characteristic. This has a faint bit of that. It's not as potent as I've smelled in Rieslings before. But just a really beautiful nose, a little kind of mineral, crisp, kind of stony minerality going on with it, most likely from that granite soil that these vines are planted in. Oh my God. Whoa. I mean, as soon as that wine hit my palate, the acidity just went racing through my head, like down my spine. That, if you are trying to look for an example of a wine, you're trying to really kind of hone in your acidity bar as to what's low acidity, what's high acidity. This is high acidity. I mean, lip smacking, lip puckering. I mean, almost to a point where I haven't had any wine to drink today, so that first sip is going to be a little bit more drastic than the next one. But I mean, it really throws you back when you first take a sip of this if you haven't had anything else acidic during the day to really kind of warm your palate up for something like this. So immediately to me, this tells me a few things about this wine. One, really nice long finish too, and it's got a creamy body. Don't take super high sharp acidity as light and crisp and like it's gonna go away. It's lingering here. I mean, there is serious lingerer. Got a lingerer here. It is hanging around on my palate like you wouldn't believe. Like that drunk uncle at a Christmas party that you just wish would just leave already, but he's staying around and everybody else is starting to leave and the dishes are being done and we're flicking the lights on and off and putting the chairs up on the table and he's still just hanging around there. I mean, literally still going and going. Wow. And it's that lime, that minerality, that kind of, but it's sharp. It's a sharp stone, not like, I forget which wine we drank the other day that had like a crumbly stone. But this one is a hard stone. So back to what I was saying. The acidity with this wine tells me a few things. One, food pairer for sure. I honestly don't think that this is a wine that you want to, as good as this wine is, I don't think that this is a wine that you want to sit down on the front porch and pound or by the pool. I mean, especially $60 bottle. I mean, I'm not usually picking my, $50+ bottles to drink by the pool. But purely from the acidity standpoint, this is a wine that is begging to be paired with food. Things that are popping into mind. So when I'm looking to pair acid with food, I'm looking for things that are fatty, that they are rich, that they are lacking in acid. Sushi is the first thing that pops to mind. Rich fish. You've got fatty fish. You've got the rice, which is starchy. You've got seaweed. You've got umami. You've got soy sauce. You've got all the components really, and then they throw that kind of pickled ginger on there for the acidity to cleanse your palate. If you're not into ginger, this is your wine right here. So I'm thinking sushi, first thing off the top of my head, sushi. But if you want to go a little bit lowbrow with it, and in my opinion, not lowbrow because this is about a weekly meal for me, fried chicken. Southerner, big fan of fried chicken in all of its forms, but that's a rich, fatty kind of a meal. And usually the things that you're eating with it are kind of in that same vein when you're getting into mashed potatoes and you're talking about biscuits and, baked beans and mac and cheese. And all of those things are very rich and heavy. So you need something very acidic to cut through that. So that's the first thing. Food pairing wine right here. Do not buy this bottle of wine and think that it is open it by itself and pound it while you're watching Netflix or something. It's not. You need food with this wine. Second thing, hardcore ager right here. This is a 2017 bottle of white wine that I could see realistically being able to age for a good 10 to 15 years. This acidity will continue to bring it through. Some of that citrusy lime thing will start to fall off with age, and some more of that mineral petrol, more kind of interesting ripe fruit character like that apricot kind of thing will start to come through more with age, and then the acidity will calm down. So honestly, this bottle is probably not going to hit its peak for another 3 to 5 years and then continue to just go from there. So really, really good food pairing wine here. Riesling always is, no matter where you're getting your Riesling from, if it's Alsace, Austria, Germany, Australia, or New York, Generally, they're all going to have that really strong acidity that you want to pair with food. And with Germany, they've got that sweet component to them as well. That's your perfect Sunday brunch sipper, because it's got that light sweetness. It's going to help to kind of clear that headache from Saturday. Pair well with most brunch foods. Get that light kind of off dry style. That's really going to be a great little pairing with all of your brunch foods as well. That's Riesling, guys. Don't sell Riesling short just because you think it's always sweet. It's not always sweet. Even the sweet ones, though, are really excellent most of the time. Just don't go buy your cheap 4-pack of Sutter Home Riesling off of the gas station shelf. Spend some bones and get you a good bottle from Alsace, Austria, or Germany. Remember, with Germany, look for Trocken. That's the word that you want to look for. In Alsace, you can almost always expect dry styles. So, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you being here. Tune in tomorrow for Pinot Noir Wednesday. I've got a Pinot Noir from the same producer from Alsace. Super stoked about it. Check it out tomorrow, and we'll catch you next time. Later, guys.